and I'm joined today by my brother from a different mother, Bernard. How you doing, Bernard?
I'm fine, Ray. Hi, guys. Lovely to see you all.
Good. We're here to do the Premier League review show. It's week 16. I think we might have missed a couple of weeks. It's been very, very busy, I think, all round, and I think the midweek games was tough to squeeze in before I think the problem is with games on a Thursday, it doesn't give you much time before the game's on a Saturday. So you got a day, and we're doing the previews for the derby, and the derby was on Saturday. So it was just, unless we clone each other, I think it was impossible. Trust me, guys, I don't think you want.
No, you don't want two of each of us, do we? Really? No.
4 slapheads going around instead of 2. Right, let's go. Look, I'm just stalling here. I'm just stalling for time before I have to say Manchester City 1, Manchester United 2. And I'll just say, for me, it epitomises our season. It's been an up and down season, roller coaster. 16 games, we've lost 4 out of 16. Took us 38 games to lose. Well, last season to lose 4, it was actually at 26. And then we won the last 14. But to lose 4 already, that's a lot. A couple of draws in the Champions League as well recently. And it really has been up and down. And we've been losing to teams that on paper you'd look and say, well, they shouldn't be in the ballpark. Spurs shouldn't have been in the ballpark against us. Newcastle, we're drawing with them. Newcastle should have been in the ballpark. Wolves, okay, they're a pretty reasonable team that are hard to beat. Norwich. And talking of poor teams, we come to United. And really, you'd like to think we wouldn't be losing to them. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, Bernard. Tell us why. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I think the thing is, we know in the Premier League, every team's sort of got players that can hurt you. There's probably 3 or 4 or 5 teams that play as a team. They haven't got the specialists. But let's face it, United have got players that could hurt us. We knew that before going into the game. We also knew we got a dreadful record at the Etihad against United, considering how good we've been for the last few years. So it didn't bode well. We were a bit hopeful, weren't we, after the Burnley result, but I think we put a little asterisk against that Burnley result when we won it on the basis of we were a bit, are we back, or were Burnley a little bit too laid back and not going for it, which they didn't do, let's be honest about it. And having seen them, their result this weekend, obviously we were quite right to put an asterisk, weren't we, against the Burnley game. Yeah. So United just absolutely exposed us in all the positions we thought we would get exposed, and we've been exposed by even worse teams than United. United aren't great by any means, but even teams like, as you say, teams like Wolves and Newcastle.
That's harsh on Wolves. Wolves are right.
Well, yeah, but Wolves to me are middling at the moment. They're nothing. Yeah. They are nice. They're well organised, but they're not impressing me like teams like Sheffield United and Leicester are. So Wolves are a good team, but they had players to expose us, and United have got the same. And unfortunately, tactically wise, the team was pretty much, I think, what most of us thought. We wanted Foden in there, didn't we, for the energy, for the legs in a derby. I think that would have been nice. It was nice not to see Gundogan. I think he played, because I would have worried if Gundogan and Rodri had both been playing together. But unfortunately, we still didn't have the legs in midfield. We still got overrun. And as I say, United, if they take the chances, which they did, had a chance to beat us. And let's face it, we could have still drawn or won that game because United are so poor, and we are not a bad team, really. Yeah. That we should have really got something from it, and it was just so disappointing that it just ended as it did. And again, we've gone away from the Etihad against United, and they're in there celebrating, and we've come away disappointed yet again.
Yeah, it was that's the right word, disappointing. That I felt we didn't turn up. Really, we didn't have some of the energy that they had, the determination, the resolve, and the midfield is something I've been worried about since very early on in the season. The first 2 or 3 games, there's things I noticed about Rodri, and I'm no expert. I never professed to be an expert, but maybe sometimes I'm a glass half full kind of person, and I'm looking for those little negatives because I want us to improve. I want us, it's kind of the work I used to do. You're looking to improve systems. So you look for the weaknesses, and the system might be.
Don't forget, derbies are psychological as well, aren't they? Psychological, and all this whinging about the handballs and all the players moaning and groaning. That's all part and parcel of psychologically. We're down. You know, we're a bit beaten at the moment psychologically. And I've seen Rodri saying about, you know, the players are moaning about VAR and stuff. We've got to put that to the back of our minds. We're not going to get anything with Oliver on the VAR. We're not going to get anything with Taylor reffing the game. We've got to actually be better than them. We weren't. So psychologically, we failed as well as physically failed. We're
making excuses. And Cole said to me the other day, a few days ago, he said about Bernardo Silva, and he said, you know, this comments from Sam Lee, and fans are giving him this excuse as well that about the tweet with Ben Mendy, and he said it's very easy for a player to fall into that and use that as an excuse to say, look, that's the reason. But and fans are saying that's the reason. I said, hang on.
Well, the players are doing that now with the VAR. They're actually coming out and complaining about the VAR, which is fair enough. I mean, a couple of those handballs might have gone against us the other way, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We shouldn't have been, you know, at least they were putting the bodies on the line again, which is more than we were.
I think the thing is psychologically, mentally, it's the attitude thing where they're looking for that excuse now. So if you give them that excuse, it's like sometimes you hear managers say the players are tired and that player might not be tired or there's too many games. And suddenly, slowly by slowly, you know, the player thinks, yeah, someone's saying I'm tired. I must be tired. And he said that about.
I think Pep's probably part. You know, I'm not going to blame Pep for anything, but I think his persona and his body language is saying he's the same. He's actually looking for these things now, and obviously, if the players are rubbing off Pep, which they do, obviously, and you know, and that's that. You know, he may be having a negative effects, unfortunately, as well.
But there's something we obviously need to do, and I've said it. Midfield, we haven't got the legs, and it's funny that a lot of us are asking for Fernandinho to go back to midfield, and he's 34, Rodri's 22, and we haven't got the legs. But when we lose the ball, we are very slow in transition to get back. You know, we've got David Silva, who, for me, you know, last season I wouldn't have anybody, you know, say anything against him because I still thought he was playing at a very, very high level. He put a lot of effort in, a lot of energy. This season, that's disappeared, and a lot of our swarming of the ball, that's vanished. You know, when we haven't got the ball, we really swarm to get it back, and we press teams into making mistakes and just hoofing the ball.
Well, there's an interesting thing on Twitter now, if any of the guys or yourself have seen it. Is it the guys who used to do Bitter and Blue, in it? Do they do Main Road Ramble? They're doing little analyses and little videos of stuff, and it's quite interesting. Any guys watch that, and obviously they do. I've seen a couple today on the United game showing how the lack of swarming and the way we did get past United at times and the way they got past us. It's just quite because I couldn't face watching the whole game again. I did watch the extended highlights just for my own thing, but
I haven't done that.
I looked at the app and said, I'm not watching that again. But it's good to see little bits on Twitter, you know, of people putting constructive things together and of what's going on, you know.
I think that's it. See, I mean, I had some words with somebody this morning on Twitter, and it ended up with him being a bit rude. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't full-on abuse. We have a difference of opinion, and he was basically whinging that Leroy Sané wasn't here and we miss him. And all I did was point out that after the Liverpool game, I said, just tell me what Leroy Sané did after the Liverpool game last season. He hardly ever started, and when he did start, he didn't do much. So you can argue that we're missing him as an option, but we're not missing him as a player because we
miss him off the bench. We don't have much off the bench to actually change a game, to actually win a game for us, unfortunately, at the moment. But
but the last dozen or so games last season, he hardly figured, and he was a passenger when he did play.
Let's face it, even before his injury, we thought he was going. I mean, he was body language was he was going. You know, so we're not missing him really because he shouldn't even be there.
Exactly. So the thing is, I think fans as well are looking for excuses and say, "Oh, look at our injuries. Look at our injuries to Laporte and to I agree. Kompany going as a leader was a massive thing because I think there was a mistake.
We brought things. I think I said last night, we're sleepwalking into problems. We brought a lot of this on ourselves, and now we're suffering. We're suffering the fallout from it.
And I don't think fans can accept it. You know, they're blaming, as I said, the company departure, blaming injuries, blaming VAR.
They're blaming each other. We're fighting in the stands, and God knows what. It's absolute diabolical.
You know, it was crazy how, you know, when it started near me. I will talk about that briefly because I haven't really gone into it. But it started off very. It was very minor. Two guys grabbing hold of one guy. You know, I think maybe someone had said something. The other guys didn't agree. Look, we were losing. We were not playing great. I understand people get frustrated. And obviously, a 5:30 kickoff, people are some of them were well lubed up. Yeah.
And I mean, there used to be a rule, didn't there, where they couldn't have derbies kicking off any later than a certain time, and all these things now with television have been put on the back burner. The police must have an input on things like that as well.
They should have. They used to have it. I know in Scotland they still have it like 12 o'clock or something. Yeah. You know,
the atmosphere. I mean, I've been to, like yourself, I've been to many 12:30 kickoffs, and the atmosphere isn't quite, well, it is good, but obviously it's not as toxic. I mean, it's the toxicity, isn't it, of the atmospheres that there's problems at derbies at Old Trafford and at the Etihad or the Old Main Road and whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's the actual anger. As I said, I used to be a regular Mary D's up to a couple of years ago. I do pop in occasionally now, but the atmosphere in there is a lot worse. There's a lot of younger element, and there's a lot of I don't know what it is. It's just obviously it's just beer, but obviously other things as well now. I'm not going to blame the young ones because we fall into that trap, don't we? Because we're just bad. Look at the guy on Saturday. How old was he? He wasn't a young lad, was he? Who got done for the abuse sort of thing. But no, the atmosphere in Mary D's is terrible. I mean, they sing all the songs that we don't want to sing, basically. I know we don't in the ground, obviously, now we've learned that lesson. But you still get them aired in Mary D's. You still get that nastiness. And it's the same when we play at Old Trafford in their pubs. You know, you get that sort of thing. So at 5:30 kickoff, it's absolutely...
it's asking for it.
You know, 7:30 kickoff, 8 o'clock kickoff, when it's a weekday game, is fair enough because people are in work, but not when they've had a chance to... You can't go all day.
Well, you can't go and operate machinery all day if you're lathered up already. So you've got to at least wait till you finish work. And it was disappointing that it started as something small, as it generally does. Yeah. And it's something that, you know, a lot of heated, raised voices and exchanges, and it wasn't going. It shouldn't have gone anyway. It should have stopped there. And then you get their mates coming from all over, and then they all pile in, and you know. I mean, it wasn't far away from me. Initially, I kept half an eye on it and trying to watch the game. And I looked over a couple of times, and it was just grabbing each other. I thought, all right, just grappling a bit. Let's leave it. But when all the other guys turned up, then it was a full-on fight. And so I, you know, as your peace-loving guy, I waded in. I tried to, stop it, but there was one guy. He just launched himself onto the guy in front of him. But that, obviously, you're on a terrace. It's going to go, and if you're not on your feet and you're flying through the air and knocking someone, you go rattling down 3 or 4 rows into people, kids screaming.
I mean, on and off the pitch with nothing to be proud of, have we? Twitter wasn't quite as toxic at the night. Obviously, everyone was sort of clamoring together the racist thing, but I found Twitter was not too bad actually after a defeat. Usually, you get so many people various. Twitter was okay, but on the pitch and off the pitch, I think the fans and the players didn't do ourselves much.
Well, I think players let us down a bit, and a few fans because
a few fans. Yeah, it wasn't. At the end of the day, 50,000, you're gonna get a few, couple of dozen, few dozen sort of idiots, aren't you? Let's be honest about it.
So let's put City to bed. I'm sure we'll have.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, won't it? I mean, psychologically, we really don't need to lose that, do we? But we don't know what he's going to do tomorrow with these Zagreb game.
It's interesting to see who he plays against Zagreb, because you've got to mix it up. You've got to put some kids in. You've got to put maybe Zinchenko coming back from injury. He's had a week and a bit to train. Maybe it's worth giving him 45, 60 minutes. And it's a crazy notion. It is crazy that Zinchenko comfortably is our number one left back.
Clamoring for him to come back. I mean, we've always liked him, haven't we? But at the end of the day, he's not been. But he's turning into our main guy just to get that, just that steadiness that he offers. Really,
bonkers. Okay, I'm sure, as I said, we'll come back to talking more about City at the end of the year. I think once we've had the New Year's Day game, we'll have another review of. I mean, more than half the season will
Yeah,
be
it'll be
gone.
interesting after the Leicester game, won't it, as well? How we stand after that one. That's a big game, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I mean, we have to win it for ourselves, but we could also be stopping.
They're the sort of team that'll pick us off. That's the unfortunate thing, that they've got all the skill set to pick us off.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at some of the other games that hopefully you watched, because
yeah, I managed to watch most of them. Yeah, over the 3 games, obviously, for some of these teams, so I've got a reasonable view of some of them.
Yeah, I mean, let's briefly look at the weekend's games. I think, but really, these are just I think 1 minute synopsis. Watford Palace 0-0, boring. Watford are still in trouble. Palace probably happy to pick up a point away from home, stay in the top 10, still 2 points off a European place. So I guess Watford will be happy-ish that they didn't lose another game.
Well, I mean, obviously Deeney's back now, isn't he? Playing fully fit now, so that he might help them. And obviously, is it Pearson, the new manager? Is it Nigel Pearson? I mean, they've got to hope for some sort of bounce, haven't they? Because at the moment, of the bottom teams, Watford do look the most unlikely at the moment. But as you say, they've got Mr. Deeney back for now, and obviously they've got Pearson, who might be able to work a little bit of magic. Palace, I think Palace are just Palace, aren't they? I don't think we're. You know, they were very disappointed in that game at weekend. They were pretty awful. I think they had 3 shots and none on target. That's terrible. I don't think they've had such low stats for a long time. So hopefully for Palace, it's just a blip for them and they'll be all right.
I think Palace are happy to get the point. Watford, yes, they need more. But look, I don't write them off. They've got 22 games to go. Yeah. And with the tightness of the Premier League at the moment,
the bottom half of the table, there's not a couple of 2 or 3 wins. You're back into mid-table, aren't you? So yeah,
I mean, look at United. They beat Spurs and they beat City. Okay, if they hadn't got those 2 wins, okay, they would be sat somewhere around 13th in the league. Yeah. Okay, they'd be 3 points off the relegation zone.
It's not over for anybody yet, you know, at this point in time. I mean, it's only 16 games, but it's certainly not. It's still, you can't say anyone's dead and buried just yet. In other seasons, you've started to worry about teams at this stage, haven't you? But in this season, no, I'm not too worried about anybody. They all can get themselves out of it at the moment.
Yeah. Tottenham 5, Burnley 0, and that's what we talked about. What were Burnley like? They were poor against Spurs. It's combinations. Probably Spurs were all right. Burnley were rubbish, and they got trampled on.
I mean, I've always questioned Son's finishing, but I think he's got 5 in the last 7 now. So he's done. But that goal he scores, that was superb. I mean, I'm no big fan of Spurs or Son in particular, but that was a cracking goal. I mean, Burnley needed someone to take him out, unfortunately, which they didn't, which is very unlike Burnley, isn't it? But Burnley, I think when we got our little win against them, it just shown Burnley aren't too hot at the moment, and so our win wasn't as impressive as we thought, and Spurs did really well. I mean, I think, you know, I can see them perhaps clambering up to top 4 again if they carry on. If Mourinho carries on this sort of play with them at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny thing. I said Burnley. You know, Burnley have got 18 points. You know, and United have got 24, and it's just one of those things. If United had lost 2 and Burnley had won 2, Burnley would be up somewhere like in 6th or 6th place. So it's how tight that league is. Next, obviously I can't call them the Dippers anymore. Can I call them the Dippers? I can still call them Dippers, apparently.
Well, we're not allowed, you know. Well, bin dippers. I don't know. You can't call them bin dippers. I don't think. I've never called them that anyway. So
I call them Dippers. I'm happy to call them Dippers. I lived in Liverpool for 3 years.
What I like about Liverpool now is we were all saying, weren't we? December, they got all these games. Well, let's see when. But he's rotating the team. He's taking 3 or 4 players out, and they're still batching teams. I'm sorry, Liverpool are just now psychologically as well as physically capable of dropping 2 or 3 of their better players, their best 11, and still winning games like at Bournemouth. Bournemouth are absolutely pulled apart. They've got their own problems, Bournemouth, haven't they? I mean, there's so many injuries now, and I do worry a little bit about Bournemouth because they're on a bad run and we've got all these injuries. Did Aki go down at weekend as well? I think he got injured. Anyway, but they've got so many injuries, and Liverpool pulled them apart with a weaker team again, like they did with Everton. I mean, they weren't great against Everton, but it doesn't matter now. He can rotate his squad and still get the victory.
Well,
So they're pretty unstoppable at the moment.
He dropped Salah. He dropped Firmino.
He took the mick against Everton, didn't he? I was surprised. His team he picked against Everton. I thought he's taking the mick here. What's it? And they didn't lose anything. They looked far, but he looked a bit better.
I mean, this game he dropped Mane. He dropped Mane for this game. So you know, as I said after 7 or 8 games, definitely after 8 games, I was already saying Liverpool will win the league, and people got to be no. I mean, you could see the way City were up and down. Liverpool were like a machine. And I said, if they hadn't won the Champions League last season, I think they could have struggled this season because you know, they might have got the between
they didn't buy anyone, did you? So this is why we're all thinking that, get a couple of injuries, VAR's here now and all this sort of thing. We were all thinking that you've not bought anyone. So you're not, we just didn't believe we'd implode like we have or have the problems we had. And they've just gone from strength to strength. Is it because G'd up by the Champions League when if they hadn't won that, I don't know.
Mentally, they would have been broken.
Yeah.
But they got the Oxlade-Chamberlain back, and he had an injury for last year. Lallana's come back as well. Yeah. So that's like getting 2 new players. Yeah. And
the thing is, when they do come back, they probably, they are far better players for a while, I think, until
they really want it. You know, the players that get, who are not first-team players, I think the difference between Liverpool and City is the Liverpool players really want to show that they deserve to be in the team.
Yeah, Shaqiri, I mean, I don't dislike Shaqiri. I think he's an okay squad player. I mean, and as you say, because he's only getting bit parts, you're going to get the best of him.
Yeah. As I said, so they got Lallana and they got Oxlade-Chamberlain basically back. That's like having 2 new signings. And also, the new signings from last season have got a season in the Premier League under their belt.
Yeah.
Like Keita, like Fabinho. So that's brought them on a little bit as well. So, I think that's done and dusted for them. Everton, with Big Dunk, trounced Chelsea 3-1. And, Chelsea have lost 3 of the last 5, which is not great, and won the other 2. But, I mean, Everton have a little bit of a turnaround. Can Big Dunk get this job full-time?
Yeah, I mean, I think apart from the Liverpool, I can't remember who they played before Liverpool Everton, but they were quite unlucky to lose in the last. Was it Newcastle? They lost in the last minute. They were quite unlucky to lose that actually. So, but the Liverpool display was absolutely poor. Having said that, they could have easily come back into that and pulled level with Liverpool at one stage because Liverpool's defence wasn't, even though they were great going forward, they weren't great at the back. But obviously, I think Everton are the sort of team that suits someone like Duncan Ferguson. They're, they're his ideal sort of team, if you like, to actually do that. So I think they'll get the bounce off that, and the 14th, I think, at the moment. So I think they'll be okay based on what's seen. Chelsea now, obviously, their inexperience and naivety, which shown against us, obviously, 3 games ago. This is going to be an interesting thing for them to see how they go now, because you could easily see those. The fans are getting a bit irate from what I've seen on Twitter, etc. The fans, even though they give them a bit of leeway because of the circumstances, all of a sudden the fans are beginning to turn a little bit on Mr. Lampard and Chelsea and stuff like that. So there, it just shows you, doesn't it, how fickle we are. But no, it'll be interesting for Chelsea how they go over Christmas now, and because they could easily start. They've got a bit of still a cushion, a little tiny cushion, have they, till to the 5th, 16s? But they could easily stop. It'd be interesting how Chelsea go now they're under a bit of pressure.
Quickly, what's GM been saying? Our friend GM,
he's not happy. It was funny actually. I'll just mention it very quickly. I went on when he gave the ratings for the Everton game. He only gave it a 2.5 minute video, I think it was. He was rating the play, and I was just laughing. It wasn't live. He'd just obviously done it and posted it, but it was quite funny. If any of you guys want to get onto that GM ratings of the Everton Chelsea game, please go on it. It's so funny.
Yeah. We'll move on to Sunday's games then. Brighton 2, Wolves 2. Both happy with the point, really.
Yeah, I watched all of that. It was a great first half, really entertaining. And the second half, I think they both accepted that they'll share a point. And the second half was absolutely naff, to be honest with you. But no, I like the way Brighton have stuck to the guns, haven't they? He's carried on playing football. I think they're in 12th at the moment. He's carried on playing some good football. I'm quite happy for Brian. I think he's trying to do it the right way. And obviously, say Wolves are Wolves. They don't look anything special, and then all of a sudden they zoom into action. But it was a pretty fair result.
The thing about Wolves is they don't lose many games.
Yeah.
And if you're not losing many games, if you're not letting too many goals in, you got a chance of winning stuff.
He had a bad game, actually, the keeper. That's the worst game I've seen him have, actually, Patricio. It was one of his worst again. He's a good goalkeeper, but he didn't do too well with a couple on with one, at least one of them on at weekend. But I do like Patricio, but it was his worst game I've seen him play. But yeah, they are pretty steady at the back.
Norwich 1, Sheffield United 2. Obviously, Norwich could have done with a win or something out of that game to, because they are 4 points off safety at the moment. Sheffield United still defying the odds.
Unbeaten, aren't they? Unbeaten away from home still. They are stuttering just a little bit at the moment. So again, that's it there. Another one approaching Christmas, not in total form, but
Sheffield United. Sheffield United, well, the thing is, in the last 5 games, they've drawn 3, won 1 and lost 1. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When I say stuttering, it means they're not quite as getting the thing. Obviously, they're... but, they're still, what are they, 8th at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, they got beat by Newcastle at home, didn't they, last week, which was a bit of disappointment. It was a bit of a disappointment. I think, was it last week they got beat by Newcastle?
Yeah, I mean, that
but because they did huff and puff, but Newcastle played quite well, and they just missed a little bit. But no, and Norwich, well, yeah, I mean, Norwich tend to do play well. I mean, I assume all the injuries they had at the start of the season, I'm assuming some are dripping back in of the main players now. I'm not too sure, but they're in 19th. But like any of the teams, they're not out of anything just at the moment.
Not out of it. Not with the way Bournemouth are going, dropping like a stone.
Yeah.
Let's look at who else. We had Newcastle 2, Southampton 1. And Steve Bruce, another one who's defying the odds. Newcastle now won 3 out of the last 5.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really deserve it. I've been quite impressed with Southampton. I can't see how, the fact they're in 18th place. You think back to the 8-0 at home to Leicester, but Southampton, again, with a better team. Newcastle didn't really deserve to get anything out of that game, and they went on to win it, which is unbelievable. But it just shows that Southampton's defence and goalkeeper isn't perhaps up to too much at the moment.
They've Newcastle. And some people can argue they probably won 2 or 3 games this season that quite possibly, they didn't create much and maybe they didn't deserve to win, but they've won them. Back to the wall performances, and they've won those games.
And I think they're in 10th, aren't they? They'll be happy with halfway at the moment with Brucey, to be honest with you. They'll be happy with that.
Yeah, look, I mean, they still want 40 points. Look, it looks nice and comfortable, but hey, look, there's still only 7 points off relegation, so nothing's comfortable for anybody yet.
You can't afford a bad run, but as I say, they just keep squeaking the wins, perhaps undeservedly sometimes, but they still do it.
Villa 1, Leicester 4, and Jamie Vardy, hottest striker in the Premier League at the moment.
8 wins in a row for Leicester, which is the first time I think they've ever done 8 wins in a row, isn't it? And I mean, I had them down for winning 3-1, so I was a bit gutted that he won 4-1, to be honest with you. But no, I mean, again, Villa 17th, again, not out of it, but you've got to win the home games, haven't they? And they're gonna struggle a little bit and find themselves being sucked in, losing points on the others now. It's 17th place, so they need the home wins. But Leicester, you can't complain getting beat by Leicester at the moment, can you? They're on an absolute roll at the moment, Leicester.
Well, the thing about Villa, I mean, one thing that I'm always interested in is goals for, against, and goal difference. And you look at the teams in the bottom 3: Watford -21, Norwich -17, Southampton -17, West Ham, who are just above, -10, Aston Villa -5. So they've got the ability to score goals. They've got 23 goals this season. That's 1.5 a game, which is pretty decent, actually. I mean, it's the same number as Wolves have scored, and Wolves are sat in 6th. So, their problem is for Villa is they've just lost 9 games. And only drawn 3. And it's actually, if they could have pulled out 3 draws instead of 3 losses, they'd have been comfortably in 13th. So it's still a lot to play for, but obviously they've got to look over the shoulders a bit. And last night's game, which is why we're doing the review today on Tuesday, is West Ham 1, Arsenal 3. Now, Obviously Manuel Pellegrini, our ex-manager, and I'm sure most City fans would like him to do well at West Ham. And a lot of City fans have got a bit of a soft spot for West Ham as well. Similar sort of working class club ethic. I think in a bit of a yo-yo club as well. And they've got a bit of money. They thought they were going to have some good times this season. They started off, Arsenal was shocking, but West Ham got that lead. And then suddenly Arsenal scored 3 goals. Bang, bang, bang. They've got that in them. When you've got people like Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette knocking around, Ozil, you're the kind of team that can score goals.
I think they've both now got the same records for the last 10 games, 1 win in the last 10 games, both of these teams. But having finished that game, which team is obviously going to be more confident going into next weekend? Obviously, it's going to be Arsenal, isn't it? Obviously, they're going to be up for it. The fans, I've seen on Twitter, the fans are up for it. Obviously, some West Ham fans are now calling for Pellis' head. So that didn't last long, the love affair with our charming man, didn't it? This charming man. But West Ham, it was a game of 2 hours, wasn't it? Arsenal were absolutely diabolical the first half. Got to kick up the arse at half time. And West Ham were absolutely diabolical in the second half. They just looked out of ideas totally. And Arsenal deserved it. I just hope it's not psychologically giving them a big bounce now for their next league game.
We're going to... Well, the thing is, but I'm loath to say we're going to we can't steamroller anybody. I can't see it.
Well, again, Arsenal have got the players that can hurt us. They've got the speed. They've got the players up front that can hurt us. Yes, we know the crap defensively, but we're not exactly putting our chances away. So they again are a team that can hurt City. They've got the players to hurt City.
If Arsenal, if Ljungberg and the Arsenal players get it right. Just defend against City. All right, the defenders aren't great, but if your focus is don't pass it out from the back.
Yeah.
Just defend. Use Lacazette. Use Pepe. Use Aubameyang. Can you imagine Nicolas Pepe up against Angelino?
Well, he probably had one of his better games last night, didn't he? For Arsenal. So the second half, as I said, the first half. Forget the first half; they were terrible. The second half, I think they were trying to claim Pepe as the man of the match because of the second half. But
the thing is, can you imagine him? He's got the pace to give Zinchenko a 10-yard start and still beat him over 15 yards. He's got the trickery, and he's got those fast feet, which. Even if he's not playing well, he's still you're still excited by watching him because of his fast feet. Zinchenko's got no chance, and it's interesting. We're going to have a very since we've done all the games, very quick look forward to Zagreb and Arsenal. Even though Zagreb's Champions League, but it's interesting to know that Zinchenko's in the matchday squad for Zagreb. So I'm hoping he gets enough game time to make sure he can start at the weekend. And we were saying off air, can you really believe it that we're begging Zinchenko to come back?
Well, this is it. It's become one of it's just become one of those guys that, obviously took a bit of stick, hasn't he? He has took a bit of stick from City fans unfairly, I think. He's done a wonderful job, and he's been. It was no worse at the start of the season than any other of our guys, and we just need that steady hand, don't we? We just need steady Eddie there, steady Eddie on back in the team.
Other thing I like about Zinchenko, you feel he gets it,
and he loves. He's a lot of our players. You have to have a little bit of question mark over the commitment just at the moment. I'm sorry to say, which is a sad thing to say. But Zinchenko, you never seem to get that with him. You always know you're going to get 110%. If you can get 110%. I'm glad to have him back because he's the sort of guy that would have been better in the derby as well, and that we probably missed in that sort of game.
Well, the thing is, when he was injured a couple of weeks back, was it the Southampton game? And you see his reaction once we scored the winner, and he's up in the VIP area or wherever, and he just. He was really quite pleased that when
you cannot dislike Zinchenko, can you? As a City fan anyway, and most other football fans, how can you dislike someone like him? He's a bit of an idiot, but he's only a young lad, isn't he? Obviously he's got his girlfriend, and he's got all these little things. He's been on the internet, but how can anyone? It's just all credit to him.
The thing is, he's young, he's having fun, his dress sense is Questionable.
His dancing's not great, but
yeah, but I'm sure when you were his age, you were wearing bell bottoms.
in the dressing room as well. I mean, the way things are going, we need someone like him in the dressing room, don't we? Playing, not just stood there pontificating. It's just be great to have him in as a personality in the dressing room as well.
I mean, the last thing I'll say, I mean, we talked, and we'll talk about this again over the next month, and when we get to the end of December, looking forward to possible signings. We talked about the loss of Vinny, about the leadership loss more than anything, and the fact that you could argue we've lost to two people that would kick people up the backsides or drag them. One of them kicking and screaming through games. One is Vinny, and one is Fabian Delph. And it's hard to.
We didn't really touch on it, did we? I mean, at the start, so we sort of hinted at it, but we just thought we had enough, didn't we? But as you said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But we did know it's at the back of all our minds what Vincent Kompany's miss of him, and someone like Delph as a character would be. Yeah. And it's coming, and the captaincy. We knew it's going to be a problem. We didn't really want David Silva. We could understand why he gave it him, but the only person we could think of was De Bruyne, and even he has his moments where he's petulant and he doesn't quite. He's not really a captain, is he? He's more he's emotional, but he's probably not captain material. And it was a problem we thought we'd get away with, and like most things, we've not got away with it, unfortunately.
We thought we'd get away with this season too much, and I still would like an angry KDB as captain, because he's emotional.
Well, yeah, he's the only option at the moment, to be honest with you. That's all we've got. But I want him angry. I want him moaning. I want him complaining. I want him, but in a positive way, not whinging about handballs. I want him, in a positive, direct, productive way, not in a non-productive way, which at the moment we seem to be doing.
Right, guys. I think that's wrapped it up for this week 16. We look forward to the Arsenal game at the weekend. I'll be down there. Seeing hopefully get some interviews with some of the AFT more. That could be quite interesting. I might have to get the bleeper out. But we roll on, and we got the Zagreb game tomorrow. I might not be watching that because it's at 6 o'clock. I'm actually flying out tomorrow, and I'm just hoping that I don't think I'll arrive. First of all, I don't think I'll arrive in time, so that's not good. Obviously not content about my late arrival where I'm headed. I'm keeping it a secret yet. Keeping it a secret. But yeah, it's gonna be a long trip. I've just got this feeling by the time I arrive, I'll have missed some of the game. But anyway, we'll I'll at least give you a catch up after the game, and try and get a live stream in my destination, and see how cold it is, whether I can venture out or not. But anyway, guys, thank you very much, Bernard, for
cheers. Thanks, Ray. Cheers, guys.
And just to finish off, guys, go and check out Bernard's website, which is
movieGameNostalgia.com, and obviously my links on YouTube to all my film reviews, etc. Bernard Dineen YouTube.
There you go, mate. Cheers. Thanks a lot, Bernard. You have a good day, mate.
Cheers, guys.
See you soon.